Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the NPTEL course, The Joy of Computing. I plan to start with a very informal session with a couple of my friends sitting here, Ravi Kiran and Saujanya. Maybe we should say hi to everyone. So I have handpicked a couple of my students who know little about programming, and I would like to see how I can teach them the joy of computing. So initially, this session will be more of asking questions and then answering, mostly asking questions from your side, and I will try to answer at my best. Okay? So why are you people here firstly?
Basically, we want to learn programming.
Right. So have you tried learning programming before any time?
I just tried, but it seemed to be really difficult.
So difficult as in you have tried programming and you found it extremely hard a task to program, is it? Or is it that you find it very disinteresting?
It is interesting, but there's a notion that programming is difficult. So there is that fear in us that programming is difficult. So
that's true. Many people find programming very difficult. Any particular reason why you think programming is difficult?
Because the teacher who taught me had directly started it, okay, the rules to be followed and the actual procedure. There was no joy or there was no fun in it.
Right. So have you used programming anywhere? Let's say you had a real life situation and you felt the need to write a piece of code and then validate it, verify it, or have you used programming anywhere outside your curriculum? Let's say to apart from a course on programming, first course in programming. I'm sure these days high schoolers learn programming, right? Very basic stuff. And given that you people have mathematics background, you of course would have learned some packages, softwares, and even programming for that matter. So outside your curriculum, have you tried learning something? Have you felt the need to, oh, here is a place where I think I should get to my desk, try to write a piece of code, and then try to see what is the output? Has that happened ever?
No, I have never felt the
need or urge to. Okay. So the course will actually be full of that. In fact, we'll be giving you, we'll be creating occasions where you will feel the innate need to go write a piece of code and then see what would be the output, right? And most of the course will be simply trying to mimic a game, simulate a game, and then try to play with each other on the computer, right? Heard of rock paper scissors? So we have a scene where a couple of people will be playing rock paper scissors, and then a person feels the need to write a computer program for it. And there are many more instances where we create that desire in you to see if this can be programmed and see, right? Okay. One of these questions that many people have is, why do we even program, right? What is the need for it? You see in the digital world, most of what you see on your cell phone, on your computers, or be it on the internet, you open a web page, all of these are in fact some programs. Someone should have written a piece of code for all these things. That said, if I can tell you in one sentence what is programming, it's about getting things done really, really fast. Alright? You can always ask me this question, can we do without computers? Can we do without any of this programming? Of course, yes, we can. But the point is, it makes our life really, really, really simple. It makes it really fast and nice for you to execute a piece of task. For example, if you were to go to your train reservation system, right, and see when exactly you had traveled from this location to this location, it's very easy for you to put a search query inside your reservation website and then see where all you have traveled. Otherwise, you should maintain a big log of where you go, what you have done, and from there you may have to search through it manually. Let's say, for instance, I am traveling from Delhi to Bangalore. Okay, so what do? I go to the railway station, ensure that my name is there on the chart, board the train and my friend is checking whether the train has started on time or not, so that he knows that it reaches on time, and he can even trace where exactly my train is. And as I'm having my journey, I open YouTube and then watch a good video, maybe even a movie, right? And then I send out a couple of emails to my friends. And then I reach Bangalore. After reaching Bangalore, I open my cell phone and then try booking a taxi through a popular application, right? And then I reach back home and pay the taxi person the money that my phone tells me to pay. You see, the entire thing from boarding my train until reaching my home, I have been using applications, and all of them, not even excluding one, all of them are in fact bits and pieces of programming. A whole lot of programming. The whole of digital world is being made by these programs only. And the atomic blocks of it, how exactly do we go about getting our programming done, is what we will be initiating you all with.
So you mean to say every step of our life, every day, every minute, somewhere we are using programming?
Almost everywhere today, I can say, because you see, you go to a shop and you do an online transfer, you pay it through your favorite application to the shopkeeper. In fact, every shopkeeper these days, they have one application or the other through which you can transfer money to them, right? So we can hardly imagine a life today without digital way of handling things. Let's say, be it paying money or be it getting Amazon, getting your favorite product delivered through Amazon, it all involves the digital world. And by digital world, that's a layman's term. What happens in this world is a whole lot of code, a whole lot of programs, wherein you precisely tell your computer what to do, what not to do, how to handle exceptions, and things like that.
What all you said, all of those really amaze me and fascinates me, that we're using programming so much, but I know little of it. So, do you think anybody can learn it?
So that's a good question. This is one of the frequently asked questions, that can I learn programming? I would say programming is actually quite commonsensical. But there is one problem that a student faces majorly, and that is a whole lot of discouragement. So it's like, if you come and tell me you want to learn French, and I start off giving you literature in French, right? You obviously will be discouraged. First point. Second point is, when you have someone around you who is doing really well with programming, that's a second form of discouragement. It's a huge form of discouragement. In fact, you should be, so there's a popular tip for chess players. When you want to learn chess, you should not play with a champion. You should play with someone who is almost like you, maybe even slightly better, but not a lot better. Alright? So, second discouraging factor for someone to learn programming is that they end up feeling extremely discouraged by looking at someone who does really well. First one is a whole lot of details. We start with some complicated stage of programming. We don't start from the scratch. Secondly, people around you sort of can discourage you and put you off. A one-word answer to your question is yes, in fact, anyone can program, and it's a fairly easy process. So can you ball juggle? If I give you 3 balls, can you juggle? It's quite difficult, right? But you see, in about a week or 2 weeks' time, anyone can learn ball juggling. It's all a matter of practice. So programming is also that. It is in fact much easier than learning a new language, and it's very commonsensical. So in this course, what we'll be doing is we'll be ensuring that we start from something that is not programming, but is a lot of fun to do, and then slowly introduce you all to Python programming, right? Again, not through a whole lot of details and the do's and don'ts for programmers, but what we'll be doing is we'll be making you solve a problem and then learn a concept in programming. I think this is a fun way to learn programming than learn it the old school way of reading an entire book on a programming language and trying to do everything parallelly, not knowing why is this even used and how to go about doing this and what not, exercise problems that you don't understand and things like that. So the whole of this course will mostly be focused on, you pick a question, you try to answer it, and while you're answering it, you'll be learning a concept.
Do I need to know something else? Prerequisite?
Okay. There is absolutely no prerequisites assumed for the course. All you need to know is you must understand what I talk. That's the only prerequisite. Some amount of computer handling, let's say if you know how to handle your keyboard and if you know how to click on something and open a open what is called a Python terminal, that should be more than enough, right? If you just follow our instructions, you should be able to do that.
I've heard people telling that computer has some language. It will understand only a certain set of rules. And I've also heard that there's something called C, C++. But I don't really know where to start, because some say for this you have to know this, and some say for this you have to know something else. So I don't really know where to start programming.
That's right. There's a huge confusion for a beginner, where to start, what to do and things like that. You see, talk about programming language, people will talk to you about Python, C, C++, whatnot, right? So let me tell you something. Most of these things have one thing in common, and that is to understand what is programming logic, right? There are some 3 to 4 most important skills that one must develop. That should be more than enough. Once you develop that, you in fact can converse in. It's like the art of articulation. If you know how to talk well, after learning a language, I'm sure you can do well in that language. Okay? Learning many languages is different from the art of articulation. So the art of articulation analogously translates to understanding what is called programming logic. You will see more of it during the run of our course, but let me tell you that it doesn't really matter which programming language you learn. What matters is to understand how to think like a computer scientist. By that I mean how to ensure that your brain can actually think how to solve a piece of problem using programming. For that, I would strongly suggest that you people go by the course. The course is going to assume nothing, but we'll be teaching Python. Python is considered to be a very easy and quick language to learn, at the same time extremely powerful, right?
I have one more question. Why do you have so many languages? Why can't you have just one universal language, or is it necessary to have so many languages?
So this question's answer is slightly tricky, that even I don't think even I know the right answer for this question. But if I were to ask you the same question, why do you have so many languages in the world that people speak, right? You have, look at a country like India, we have so many languages, and let alone the dialects, hundreds of them, right? So the reason is, some people find solace and comfort in getting a few tasks done using a particular type of programming language, and it develops with time. Then they realize, okay, this kind of a programming language is used for, let's say, for scientific purposes only. It is not helping us in building any business applications. And then they switch to, they customize the programming language and say, okay, so this we will use for business-oriented applications. For example, Pascal was a general purpose programming language. Fortran, I'm talking about 30-40 years ago. Fortran it stands for Formula Translator. Okay, that was mainly used for scientific reasons. And then came COBOL. COBOL was used for common business-oriented language. That's what it stands for. It was used for business-oriented applications, right? And then they thought, okay, fine, we need something really robust and nice, and they came out with C. And then they realized in C there was a lot of problems when a programmer was programming. It was not easy on his mind. So they created this notion of objects, and that was the birth of object-oriented programming. right? There is very good difference between C and C++. C++ helps a person program better by keeping his mind free from any sort of ambiguity and confusions when he is coding. And then came Python, because Python was known to be sort of, they kept in mind the psychology of the programmer. C to C++ was a big leap. Then Python was like, everyone should program. How do we go about doing that? And then since it's open source, a lot of people contributed to it, and today it stands really tall as a fantastic programming language. So it is all evolution of man's thinking based on the need for something. That's a good question, by the way.
Yeah, I was rightly thinking, like as you said, it has evolved through years. That's what I can generalize from what you have told now. So do you think it will further evolve? Will we further move ahead, or?
That's again a very interesting question. Again, I'm not so sure whether I know the answer. Of course, yes, I personally believe that the next generation will, one thing is for sure, I've been observing that programming is getting easier and easier with time. Firstly, because of the available online resources, and secondly, because of the inherent ease with which you can code with the kind of tools and techniques that are available today. For example, I might sound a little technical, don't mind. There's something called integrated development environments, IDEs, where it makes your life really simple to write a piece of code. It's like you're talking in some language. If you make a mistake, you have an earphone, small earphone, where you hear, you made a mistake here, correct it. Or you're typing something and you make a spelling mistake and your word processor says, this is the right spelling, not just that, it corrects it automatically. Or says, there's a possible grammar error here. I'm just giving you analogies, right? Even in programming, there are such beautiful, what is called IDEs, which helps you program really, really better. So the future of programming would be, anyone can program, any amount of it, and with a whole lot of confidence. And the skill set required for one to program back in 80s is very different from what it is today. In fact, there is a software called Scratch, a very popular one, which I'm going to teach you people to begin with. You will see that it's actually fun to program. It's a whole lot of fun to program. In fact, you can develop games of your choice by using a tool called Scratch. We'll see more of it.
So you have told us that programming has evolved to be very easier these days. So can you tell us how we'll be learning or how to go about programming in this course?
So in this course, we are going to start from scratch. By scratch, I mean absolutely nothing. We only assume that you know how to use your mouse and your keyboard. That's it. Okay? And from there, we are going to go ahead and teach you almost everything of what one is supposed to know in programming. Right? At the end of the course, you will be ready to call yourself a programmer, and you can actually start programming some non-trivial things.
So you mean to say after 12 weeks of the course, I'll be really knowing all the requirements to write a piece of code?
See, this I should probably take a pause and then make you all realize that programming is a whole lot of practice. It has two steps. One is you need some motivation to program. That the course is going to give you in abundance. No doubts about it. Secondly, you need to do a whole lot of practice. The practice comes with you should be inspired, so there should be some sort of self-motivation. You should sit with your friends and then talk to them and then see if there is something that you can take up as a challenge and then write a piece of code and then see the output. That is something that we should gradually cultivate, right, with time. This is more like singing. You see, I mean, you cannot become a fantastic, famous singer overnight. It involves a whole lot of practice, a whole lot of thinking, a whole lot of culturing of your voice and things like that. So programming is exactly that. In this connection, I must tell you something, that there are many people who give up on programming thinking that it is not for them. And I must tell you all something, that to the best of what I have seen, to the best of what is known already, programming is quite straightforward and comes with just a few hours of practice. But a huge deterrent for programming is the demotivation, which generally emanates from your surroundings or your inability to solve something and things like that. So what you must do is go in baby steps. Don't try to do something very complicated in the beginning of your learning of programming. Go in baby steps and go as much as possible. Talk to a whole lot of people. And of course, as and always, keep trying. Right? Nothing like it.
You said about programming and how we go about and all that. So, how can mathematicians make use of it? Given that I'm a math background, I'm just curious.
So, you are from mathematics background, be it math, chemistry, economics, physics, you name it. Today, there is a requirement for all of us to calculate things, to analyze things, right? Something as non-trivial as how much water you intake every day, right? What is the change in weight from the past 3-4 years of an individual? Okay, what is the amount of carbohydrates that you take, protein that you take? Can have something to say about your health. To analyze this kind of data and to infer something, you need programming. So you see, a nutrition specialist requires programming. See, although you have packages which can be used to get all these things done, you must keep in your mind that these packages have a program inbuilt because of which the package works. And it sometimes helps for you to understand how to program so that you can customize whatever you need to do as per your requirements. So I would say programming is definitely not a must for everyone, but is a great add-on to your skill no matter what you are doing and no matter what background you hail from.
Nowadays you have applications, apps for everything. You have websites for everything. You name it, you have it. So why do you think we have to learn something about that? Because nowadays you have, for all the utilities you get something, you have applications.
Again, a good question. So you see, the fact that there are so many buildings isn't a reason why you cannot have a new building, right? The fact that you have so many buildings doesn't stop you from understanding how buildings are made. Maybe you may want to go one floor up of an existing building, right? So if you understand how one can program, there are a whole lot of situations where you will feel something is missing here and I can go and do an add-on to it, right? That can happen if you know the background programming that they have used. See, it's not an absolute must for everyone to know programming, but for you to have an edge in your respective subject, programming is a must. Be it, you said you are from mathematics background, or physics background, economics, assume you're doing business, a small scale business, still knowing how to write a piece of code and get things done comes a long way in helping you to have that extra edge over others, right? Forget others. To do something that is out of the box and out of the norm, you need to understand how to program. Programming is one skill that helps you get things done really, really fast. I'm going to illustrate this very soon with you, to you people, by using test cases where you will realize that without programming, you cannot imagine getting such things done. So I'll give you a quick illustration on what is programming. Okay? I'm going to program you people right now. Okay? So look at this. I'm going to show you my hands. If I show you in this hand, if I say this, it means coffee. If I say this too, it means tea. This is water. Can we play this game now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Coffee. Water.
Water. Tea.
Water.
Coffee.
Tea.
Tea.
Water.
Okay, let me add in 2 more items to it. Coffee, tea, water, juice, cookies. Can you remember?
Yeah.
Coffee.
Tea.
Water. Juice.
Cookie.
Cookie.
Water.
Cookies.
Cookies. Juice.
Juice.
Tea.
Tea.
I think he's copying from
Juice.
Juice.
Cookie.
Tea.
Okay.
So let's add in a small variant to this. You see what happened? I told them to make these assignments for these symbols and they did the assignment. As I was showing them these numbers, they could easily say what they represent. How about this? I will show the item using this finger, whatever, coffee, tea, water, juice, cookie, and in this hand I will show the number of coffee that I want, number of coffee cups basically. If I say this, it means 3 cups of coffee. If I do this,
Quick.
5 cookies.
5 cookies. Perfect.
shall we go ahead?
3 cups of water.
3 cups of water. I think he has not got it right. Let him do it. You remain silent, okay?
Oh, you can't see from this side. Yeah. 2 cups of juice. Yeah.
2 cups of juice. Well, it took some time for me to figure out. Okay. What is this?
4 cups of tea.
Very nice.
1
One
cup
cup
of
of
tea.
1
1
cup of coffee. 4 cups of juice.
Juice.
2 cups of 2 cookies.
2 cookies.
cookies.
2 cookies. And so on.
So what I just now did is I programmed their minds to follow a particular code, line of thought, and then they could figure out what I meant by this, what I meant by this, and things like that. Okay. So whenever I show this to Saujanya, it means help me with 2 cups of tea. I'm sorry, 4 cups of tea. All right. If I say this, it means help me with 2 cookies. Correct? So on and so forth. So symbolically, we can represent an item with something, and I just program their minds to follow a particular rule. Right? Okay. You probably are wondering what has this to do with programming. I'm just trying to get your minds started on what one means by giving instructions. Programming is all about that. So let's do one thing. So you all know the age-old way of doing a paper boat. Observe carefully. How is a paper boat done? We take a sheet of paper. Okay, it may not be very clear to you people from this angle, but I'm sure most of you already know how to make a paper boat. Now imagine these 2 people are robots. They know nothing. Do you know how to make a paper boat? Probably not. No. Correct. Good. So I will teach you step by step. You follow exactly what I do. Firstly, this is a rectangle. There is a rectangle, right? I wish to make a square out of it. How do I do that? Just follow whatever I am doing. We can keep it here. Maybe you can tear this. All that we did was we made this rectangle a square, right? By crossing it like this, and that's the way you make a square, right? And simply do whatever I'm going to tell you people. Collect all the papers here. Look at this. Fold it once like this. And fold it again like this. Simple. Okay. Show it to everyone so that they can see what we are doing. And then you see what's happening here. Of course, I'm not going to teach you how to make a boat in this course, but I'm trying to tell you people that we give instruction and people follow and we get things done. Okay, let's go ahead. Now fold this like this. Take one leaf of this and then fold it like this, and the rest 3 leaves will be folded on the other side.
This reminds me of my school days.
So you knew how to make a boat, is it? No, they never taught you.
Really remember.
Okay, good. So what you do is you should fold it like this. Basically, you should put your finger inside and fold it like this, and you'll get something in the form of a kite, and then pluck this out. Pluck this out like this, and you will get a boat. Ta-da! Done, all of you? So what is it that I did just now? I instructed a couple of people here on how to make a boat, and here we have 3 boats. Correct? So similarly, we probably can now make a plane out of paper or any origami art. I do it, I give instructions step by step, and you also do it. If you fail to understand my steps, you will not be able to get the boat. As simple as that. So,
not the exact boat. You might get some other
you
shape.
might get some other shape, or you may not end up. You might end up getting not. You might end up not getting a boat finally, right? So what if you get stuck in the middle and it's not opening at all? You force it open and it will tear. You'll be tearing the sheet, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, by following a set of instructions, he accomplishes something that I ask him to accomplish. Similarly, your computer can actually understand your instructions when you instruct the right way. Imagine I tried giving this instruction in Telugu or Kannada or French or Italian or some other language which you don't understand. You will not be able to accomplish this. Or if there is any ambiguity in the instruction, you will not be able to accomplish this. Right? So what is important here is to talk and give instruction in a way that, whether it's a computer or a human being, you're instructing in a way that at the other end, this computer understands what you're instructing. Right? Any questions? We didn't discuss anything to have questions. Go ahead.
I'll just sum up. So, just told that whatever instructions we give, for the other person it must be very clear, crystal clear.
Clear, unambiguous, easy to follow, and he must be able to produce whatever you are trying to ask him to produce, him or her, right? Okay, so this way we can actually make a computer listen to you, take your instructions, and then accomplish it. And computers have the capability of accomplishing something really, really fast, right? So trust me on this, most of your questions can be solved once we start programming. Let us start from the bare basics and try to build up one step at a time. Most of your questions cannot be answered in plain English, although I have tried my level best to do that. You will realize that the best way to answer it is to experience it all by yourself. Okay? So let us now get going with our programming journey with a very nice online package called Scratch. It is actually a programming language, and trust me, the prerequisites, the age from where one can start using this programming language is actually just 8. An 8-year-old can understand this programming language really well, and trust me, it's actually very addictive. Look at this little cat here, and look at all the commands over here. You know, these commands give this cat a whole lot of power. And let's see what exactly are the powers that you can enable the cat to perform something, right? When you say move 10 steps, I think it's obvious for you all. The moment you say move 10 steps, she must move 10 steps ahead. So let me say move 10 steps, move 10 steps. She's not moving, right? Probably there's something else that I must do. What is that? So it is double clicking on this move 10 steps. That is what is going to make her move. And if you change this 10 steps to, let's say, 50 steps, I type 50 here, it's going to make her move 50 steps. How? Not by just clicking on this once, you must click on this twice. A good thing to do is to possibly open the Scratch window by going to scratch.mit.edu. It is there in the description of this lesson, and then you can try it all by yourself as I am trying it. Okay, so move 50 steps, she moves. Another time, move 50 steps, she moves. And let me say move 100 times, 100 steps, she moves 100 steps. I'm going to pull her by the tail and then bring her back. Okay, so again, move 100 steps, she moves. Move, Perfect. And as you can see, there are a lot of self-explanatory stuff here. Turn 15 degrees, says a command. When I keep it here and then double click on it, look, she's going to move 15 degrees. Correct? Let me make her move completely. Right? She moves, and finally she comes back to her original state. Okay? I can also move her in the opposite direction. I made her move clockwise. I can make her move anti-clockwise. Look at this. Double click, double click, double click. She's moving. And then double click this. She moves in the clockwise direction. Go ahead 100 steps. Turn by 15 degrees. Go ahead 100 steps. Turn 15 degrees. Go ahead 100 steps. Turn by 15 degrees. Go ahead. Turn, 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 turn. And then go ahead. You see, I can command her using these commands. She went ahead by 100. So let me pull her back. Then let me turn her so that she comes back to her original position. Okay. So what have you learned so far? You have learned the following. Here is a cat and you can instruct her to move the way you want. The way you want here is basically the set of commands given here. Some of them sound complicated, but don't worry, with time you will be able to understand almost everything of what is given here. As of now, we just learned how to make her move ahead and how to make her turn the way we want. Let us end this lesson by making her turn by, let's say, 90 degrees. So this will make her turn by 90 degrees, right? And then again, let's say 70 degrees. I'm just typing it here, 70. And then again, let's say 80 degrees, 80 degrees, and so on, right? So now it's time for you all to not go ahead with the next lesson, but to open the Scratch window and try playing around with her and make her move around, turn around, and do whatever you want. Sky is the limit, as you can see, and it's a whole lot of fun making her do stuff. Okay, you can in fact explore other things here also. Although we'll be covering all these things, it is good if you can go ahead and look at this mini laboratory of how to program a small unit graphical figure. We just now made the cat rotate, move around. This was just the beginning. You can do a lot more with Scratch than this. Let us see more of it in the forthcoming videos. We saw how we can make this cat move, rotate, and things like that. Now, what I'm going to tell you is what is called grouping these instructions. So I'm going to group them. You can easily guess what that means. So basically, I just zoomed the command so that it's easily visible for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make her move by 100 steps and again move back by minus 100 steps. What does this mean? Clicking on this will make her move ahead. Clicking on this will make her move back to her position. It's like go ahead 100 steps and come back by 100 steps. Right? Okay. And then let me say I want her to turn by 90 degrees. So when I click on this, she turns by 90, again turns by 90, again turns by 90, and again turns by 90. So what I want her to do is, let's say, first move 100 steps and then turn by 90 and again move by 100 steps. So I should bring back move once again, keep it here, make it 100 steps and then turn by 90 degrees. What will this do? What will this do? Let me keep this aside. So when I double click on this, she'll move back by minus 100. But when I double click on this, she will perform all these four things continuously, simultaneously. Okay. So let me just remove this. This is not required. So I double click on it and click on delete. Okay. And it's gone. So when I double click on this, the first one, she will move 100 steps, rotate by 90 degrees, and again move by 100 steps ahead, and then again rotate by 90 degrees. Let us see whether this happens or not. Boom! She comes here and then settles here. We couldn't recognize what exactly happened, right? Now, if I click on this once again, she will move ahead by 100, rotate, move ahead by 100, rotate, and stop. See, that happened now. I click, she comes here. I click, she goes back. The movement is so sudden that we are unable to observe what's happening, right? So there's a way in which we can actually make her wait between the commands. And that is called, if you click on control, you will see what is called wait here. You can insert wait and she will move ahead, wait for 1 second, and again rotate by 90 degrees. I want her to move. I want her to wait for 1 second once again, and then move 100 steps, and then again wait. Okay, now what will this do? Very simple. See, most of Scratch is self-explanatory. I would say all these video lessons are not so important. What is important is you should experiment with what stands for what. Now let me double click on this. Let's see what happens. Self-explanatory, isn't it? Move 100 steps, moved, waiting for 1 second, move, rotate, and stop. I repeat, move 100 steps, rotate, move 100 steps, rotate. Given that I have given 1 second time, this has happened. Correct? Now what do I want? I want her to move ahead, let's say by 200 steps. What will happen right now? She'll move a whole lot, rotate, move just a little, 100, rotate, and stop. So I want her to move 200 steps always and go back to her original position. She went away somewhere. Okay, let me pull her back. So I want her to start here, move by 200 steps, which is somewhere here, rotate and then she'll move, rotate and then she'll move, rotate and then she'll move. She'll complete a loop, you see. She should get back to her original position. So what do I do for that? Self-explanatory. I should again make her move by 200 steps. Go to motion, click on it, put move here, move by 200 steps. I want her to wait for a second, so go to control and then say wait for a second, move by 200 steps, and then again rotate, right? You must again make her rotate by 90 degrees. Again, I want a wait in between, as you can see, otherwise you cannot see her move. Computer is very fast. The computer will make all these commands get executed in a fraction of a second. You will not be able to see her move properly. Okay, and again rotate by 90 degrees. Let's revise. 200, she comes ahead. 90 degrees, she rotates. 200 steps, she comes down. 90 degrees, she rotates. 200 steps, she goes here. 90 degrees, she rotates. And again, I must say, move by 200 steps. Isn't that right? She should move 4 times. Once, she goes straight, rotate and move, she comes down, rotate and move, she goes to the left, rotate and move, she goes up. Once again, control, wait for a second, tada, there we are. Just double click on this, go, rotate, go, rotate, go, rotate, go, rotate. She's not rotating because I'm not rotating here. So what I should do is at the end, I must make her rotate once again. So rotate by 90 degrees and hip hip hooray, we are done. Wait for 1 second and this will make her do the trick. So, but I will rotate her by 90 degrees right now, otherwise she'll not start from there. So I'll create a new command just to rotate her by 90. Now we are all set. Bring her here and then double click on this. This is a separate command. We can double click and she'll rotate like this once, twice, thrice, 4 times. As and when you double click on this, this will happen. But when you double click here, move, rotate, move, rotate, move, rotate, move, and then rotate is what's happening, right? These were the list of commands which made you write your first program, a set of instructions for this cat to move and complete a square. Remember the example of coffee, tea, 5 of them, 3 of them and things like that, correct? I gave you people instructions and you followed it. Remember? 2 coffee, 3 tea, cookies, 4 cookies and things like that, right? Similarly, I give him instruction, I give the cat instruction to rotate, to move ahead a few steps, and he does that. Okay? We just saw how we can group a bunch of commands and execute them in an instance. This is one of the most powerful concepts in computers, and especially one of the aspects of programming that is worth appreciating. You can write a long piece of code running through several tons of lines which will execute something very quickly. Let's say you click on an icon on your computer and the program opens. This particular thing is actually a piece of code, a long piece of code, but it acts so instantly that you will not realize that it is so long a code that you double click and it gets executed in fraction of a second. Fine. Now we'll go ahead and understand what are called the looping structures. If you want to get a bunch of things done repeatedly, there is a nice way of doing it in programming. And let's see more of it in our forthcoming screencast. We are on to discussing something very significant, important, and a novel concept for a beginner. Okay, what is our ultimate aim? To make our cat recite 5 tables. Okay, I'm now going to introduce you people on what is called a variable. Okay, that's what is the important, significant thing for a programmer I was talking about. Go to data, click on it, click on make a variable. It will ask you for a name. Put any name you want. Now here is a confusing part. You can put your name, or you can simply put a letter. You can simply enter whatever you want here, a word also. Let me simply enter S to begin with and click on OK. You will get a S here. You saw the difference, right? Correct? Now pull this S and keep it here. Double click on it, you will get a 0. A variable is always 0 unless otherwise initiated. What do I mean by that? I will tell you next. Pull this side. It says set S2. I'll put 15 here, which means when you double click on this, S actually becomes 15. Double click on this S, you're getting 15, right? Also for your reference, this shows the variable value, which is 15 here, correct? Okay. Now, when let me tell you what is change. When I say change S by 1, you will see what happens. Double click on it. S changes by 1 means S gets incremented by 1. Okay. Double click on S, you will see 16 now. You also see 16 here, right? If you say change S by, let's say 20, what will happen? The existing value 16 will get added by 20, which makes it 36. You see, you must practice a whole lot of handling variables exercises. You should try playing around just this thing, just this much. Make a variable and try to see what exactly happens. Let us do a small exercise now. Let's go to data, create a variable. Let me call it X. Create another variable. Yes, you can do as many as you want. Call it Y and you're done. You have X and Y, correct? And let me set the values of X and Y. How do I set it? You go here, you will get all the current variables that you have defined. X. I'll set X to something, Y to something. Okay, let me do that. 10 and Y will be, let's say, some 12. Okay, you still see that X is 0, Y is 0, correct? Let me also keep them here. As you know, you can keep these here, double click and then see what their values are. It is 0. That is because I have not double clicked on this. The moment I double click on this, these two get executed. So double click, now X will be 10, Y will be 12, as is evident here. And also double click, 10, 12, perfect. Now, What I want to do is add these two variables. How do I do that? Go to operators. You have an addition operator here. Bring that here and then go back to data. Bring set here. Create another variable, namely z. You see what I'm doing? Z gets created. What is z? Double click 0. Okay. I'm going to set z to be x plus y. How do I do that? First put x here, then put y here, and then say set z to x plus y. And bingo, you see what's going to happen now. Double click on this, z is now 0, but double clicking on it will make x 10, y 12, which already is the case by the way, and then we'll make z become equal to x plus y, which is z should become 22 here. Should become 22. Let's see if it happens. Come here and then double click. Boom. See, z became 22. Z now is 22. Correct? So you can do a whole lot of such operations here. Okay, let's do more for the sake of explaining things to you. I want to subtract also. Okay, subtract what from what? Go to data, subtract, let's say x minus y. Okay, double click on it, you will get the answer. But then if you want to set it on a new variable, then you should use set. Let me call it a new variable. Make a variable, let's say diff. Diff gets created. Please note, variables need not necessarily be letters. It can even be words like this, strings like this. So I'm going to say set diff to be the difference. So bring it here and then double click on it. Now my difference will be x minus y. Whatever x was, whatever y was, the difference will be diff. Perfect. It's showing -2. And if you want this to be sequentially executed, simply keep it here. Now tell me what happens if I make x as 35 and y as 15. What will happen to z? It will be x plus y. Z should become 50. X is 35, y is 15. Why is it showing 10 and 12? That is because I'm yet to execute these things. Okay, double click here and all these values will change. X should become 35, y should become 15, z should become the sum of x and y, which is 50, and diff should become the difference, which is 35 minus 15. What is it? 20. Correct? We must see 35, 15, 50 and 20. Let's see if this is visible. Double click. Boom. Yes, perfect. 35, 15, 50 and 20. So now you understand how to set a variable to a value, perform a few operations, assign the values to a new variable. Okay? Go back to operators, explore all these things, look at data, you can create variable and use them to do whatever you want. So what was our mission? We wanted our cat to recite the 5 tables. How do we go about doing that? Let's see. First, let me go to data and create a variable. Let me call it t. T for tables, maybe multiplication tables. Okay, and then I want to set t to 5. And then I want t to change by 5 every time. Okay, and I want my cat to say this. How do I make her say this? Say hello. So say, go to data, take t and put that here. So you're making t is equal to 5. You change t by 5. No, I think before that we should make her say t, and then you can change t by 5 and then make her say t once again. How do I do that? Simply copy paste say t once again. Okay, double click, t is set to 5 and she says t 5 and then changes t by plus 5 and then says t. But this happens so fast that you cannot see a 5 come here. Let me try it once again. Oh, see, you can't even see it because it gets executed so quick. So what will I do? I'll go to control and I'll say wait 1 second. With this you will see that a 5 comes here, you wait for a second so that you see it, and then t changes by 5 plus 5, and then t is again displayed, which is 10. Let me see this. Double click. Ha, see 5 comes and then 10 comes after a second's time. Double click 5 and then 10. So what should I do? I want this to repeat. What to repeat? Wait for 1 second, change t by 5 and say t. Right click on this and say duplicate. You will get the same thing. Keep it down. This will now be 5, 10, 15 if you know what I mean. Correct? Let me see. Double click. 5, 10, 15. Good. My cat can say 5 tables up to 5 cross 3 is 15. Let me make her say up to 50. Up to 5 times 10 is 50. How do I do that? Keep copy pasting this below. Right click, duplicate means you'll get a duplicate of that. Keep pasting this below like this. Duplicate, down, duplicate, down, duplicate, down. I have not kept a count of how many times I'm saying. Let me double click and then check. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. This is a dumb cat, as I told you. She'll only do what is being instructed. She is not intelligent enough to understand that we want up to 50 and she must go up to 50. Unless or otherwise specified, she will not do it. So what needs to be done now? Yes, I must duplicate this just a couple of times. And there I am. This makes it 10 says of t, which changes by 5 every time. And this must make our cat recite the 5 table from 5 times 1 is 5 up to 5 times 10 is 50. So basically you will see 5, 10, 15, 20 up to 50. Let's see if she does it. Double click. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Hip hip hooray. There you are. So we made our cat recite the 5 table. So we made her recite the 5 table from 5, 10, 15 up to 50. I have a feeling there's a better way to do this. And what is that better way? Can you think? Can you try before proceeding any further? It will be a good exercise for you all. Now, if not, I'm always there to help you. Maybe we want to pause here and then try to do it all by yourself. If not, let's continue. Go to control and then look at this repeat. Keep it here and then simply take, let me duplicate this. I don't want anything beyond this. Okay, let me delete this. I want to set t to 5 to begin with and then repeat this 9 times. Repeat what? I want to say t first. 5 is being said. Wait for about 1 second. Okay, and then again, let me delete this. I want the cat to say t after changing t by 5. Okay, so see what I'm going to do now. Change t by 5 and then say t and then wait for 1 second. I'm done. Let me delete this and try explaining what I just did. T will be 5. Cat will say 5. We wait for 1 second. And then I repeat this 9 times. Okay? Which means I change t by 5, which means t becomes 10. I say 10, I wait for 1 second. And this happens 9 times, which means I'll go on and recite the entire thing. Correct? The same thing can be done in such a small piece of code. Do you see the power of this repeat loop here? But let's see whether it does or not. Double click and there we go. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Yes, we did exactly this bigger code's equivalent by writing a small code. Correct? Is there any way I can even better this code? Let me try bettering this code. All of you observe. I duplicate this. I go here. I simply want to repeat something 10 times. Repeat what 10 times? I want the cat to say 5 first. So for that, I should set t equals 5. And then I want this to be done inside. I don't want any of these things. Let me delete these things. See what this code does. First sets t to 5 and then repeats say t, change t by 5 and then waits for a second. Let me see whether it does what it is supposed to do. Double click, 5, 10, so on. Let's see whether it stops at 50. Yes, 35, 40, 45, 50. You're just wondering why exactly I did this. This looks exactly similar to this. Even does what this does. But this will give me enormous amount of flexibility. And what is that? See what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a small magic for you all. Click on make a variable and create any. I'll type any here. Any is now a variable. Okay. And now I will set t to not 5 but any. And I'll change t by not 5 but any. And I will now set any to, let's say, 7. Pause the video. Observe the code. What exactly this code does. And then unpause. Play the video and see if you are right or not. Okay. I suppose you all paused the video and gave your guess. Now, double clicking on it will simply give me 7 tables, isn't it? How? Let's see whether it gives me 7 tables or not. Double click, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63 and 70. This gave me 7 tables. That's because whatever was given here, I tried replacing 5 by another variable which I could flexibly change. What do I mean by that? If you make this 8 or 9, let's say, it gives me the tables for 9. Look at this. Double click and I'll get tables for 9. Right? 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81 and 90. That is basically 9 table. In fact, you can even make it recite 19th table, which by the way I never learnt as a kid. I knew tables only up to 9. I didn't even know 12 table, but let me see whether it can recite 19 table. Very unfortunately, I'll not be able to verify it given that I don't know it by heart. So this is going on. I know it should stop at 190. Let me see. 171, 190. Perfect. So I now can make the cat recite any table which even I didn't learn as a school kid.